Ladies and gentlemen, hear me carefully. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. It is a life that never lived its true potential. There is something inside of you, something powerful, something divine, something loaded with purpose. But most people never meet that version of themselves. Why? Because they are too committed to their old self. You cannot step into your destiny while holding on to your history. You cannot become who you were created to be if you are addicted to who you have been. Today, we are not talking about improvement. We are talking about destruction. The destruction of the old mindset, the old habits, the old identity that has kept you small. Because until your old self dies, your new self cannot live. Let me give you 3 habits, not suggestions, not theories, but principles. If you live by these, your life will never remain the same again. Listen to me very carefully, because this may be the most important truth you will ever confront in your life. The day you decide to stop making excuses is the day your life begins to change. Not slowly, not accidentally, but intentionally and powerfully. You see, every excuse you make is a silent agreement to remain where you are. It is a contract you sign with mediocrity. And the most dangerous thing about excuses is that they sound reasonable. They feel comfortable. They protect your ego while destroying your potential. Most people have mastered the art of explanation, but have never mastered the discipline of transformation. They can explain why they are late, why they are broke, why they are tired, why they are inconsistent, why they haven't started, why they stopped. But explanation is not progress. Explanation is often just a sophisticated way of avoiding responsibility. And as long as you are explaining your life, you are not changing your life. You must come to a point where you become tired of your own excuses. Not tired of your situation, but tired of your justification for staying in that situation. Because the truth is, your life today is a result of what you have accepted, tolerated, and justified over time. And until you confront that truth, nothing will change. Excuses are subtle enemies. They don't attack you aggressively. They whisper to you. They tell you things like, you'll start tomorrow. You're not ready yet. You need more time. It's not your fault. And the more you listen to them, the weaker your will becomes. You begin to believe that your circumstances are stronger than your choices. But hear me clearly. Your circumstances may influence you, but they do not have the authority to define you unless you give them permission. The problem is not that life is hard. The problem is that you have allowed difficulty to become your identity. You say, I am like this because of what I went through. But you are not your past. Your past is an event, not a life sentence. And until you separate your identity from your history, you will continue to relive the same patterns over and over again. Taking responsibility means you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what can I do about it? That shift alone changes everything. Because the first question makes you a victim, but the second question makes you a leader. And leadership begins with self-leadership. You cannot lead your future if you are still being controlled by your excuses. Responsibility is not about blame. It is about ownership. It is about looking at your life without filters, without denial, without pretending and saying, this is where I am, and I take full responsibility for where I go next. That is power. That is freedom. Many people are waiting for someone to come and change their lives. They are waiting for the right opportunity, the right connection, the right moment. But greatness does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who take responsibility. Opportunity does not create responsibility. Responsibility creates opportunity. When you begin to act like the owner of your life, you start seeing possibilities that were always there but hidden behind your excuses. You see, excuses shift responsibility away from you, but in doing so, they also shift power away from you. And you cannot afford to lose your power, because the only thing you truly control in this life is your response. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond to it. And your response is what determines your future. Some of you have been through pain, rejection, failure, disappointment, and those experiences are real. They hurt, they shape you, but they do not have the right to stop you unless you give them that right. Pain is inevitable, but staying stuck is a choice. And every time you use your pain as an excuse, you turn a temporary experience into a permanent limitation. You must make a decision that no matter what has happened to you, You will not allow it to define what happens through you. That is responsibility. That is responsibility. That is growth. The old self always looks outward for reasons. It says, if only my situation was different, I would be different. But the new self looks inward and says, I will become different, and then my situation will change. That is a powerful shift because it puts you back in control. You cannot change what you do not own. If you refuse to accept responsibility for your habits, your decisions, your mindset, then you also refuse the power to change them. Responsibility is the gateway to transformation. Without it, you are stuck in a cycle of repetition. Think about it. Every area of your life that is not working right now is an area where responsibility has not been fully embraced. And that may be uncomfortable to hear, but it is necessary because comfort does not produce growth. Truth does. And the truth is, you have more control over your life than you have been exercising. Responsibility requires courage. It requires you to stop blaming your environment, your upbringing, your circumstances, and start confronting your choices. Because at the end of the day, your life is a sum of your decisions. Not your intentions, not your desires, but your decisions. You can desire success all day, but if your decisions do not align with that desire, nothing will change. You can want a better life, but if you keep making the same choices, you will keep getting the same results. Responsibility is about aligning your actions with your vision. And let me tell you something that may challenge you. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to fix your life. Nobody is coming to push you into your destiny. That responsibility belongs to you. And the moment you accept that, you stop waiting and you start acting. Waiting is often disguised as hope, but in reality, it is fear. It is the fear of taking responsibility. Because when you take responsibility, you remove all excuses. You remove all safety nets. You stand face to face with your potential, and that can be intimidating. But it is also liberating. Because when you own your life, you also own your future. You stop being a passenger and you become the driver. You stop reacting and you start creating. You stop surviving and you start living intentionally. There is something powerful about a person who has no excuses left. They become unstoppable because every obstacle becomes a challenge to solve, not a reason to quit. Every failure becomes a lesson, not a limitation. Every setback becomes a setup for growth. You must train yourself to respond differently. When things go wrong, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? When you fail, don't say, I can't do this. Say, what can I learn from this? That is responsibility in action. That is how you break the cycle. Excuses are comfortable because they remove pressure. But responsibility is powerful because it creates results. And you have to decide which one you want more, comfort or growth, because you cannot have both at the same time. Growth demands responsibility. It demands that you show up even when it is hard, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is uncomfortable. It demands that you stop negotiating with your potential and start committing to it. The truth is, your future is waiting on your decision to take responsibility. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Because every day you delay is another day you reinforce your old self. And if you want to destroy your old self, you must start by destroying your excuses. Excuses are habits, and like any habit, they can be broken. But you have to be intentional. You have to catch yourself when you start making them. You have to challenge them. You have to replace them with action. Instead of saying, I don't have time, say, I will make time. Instead of saying, I can't, say, I will find a way. Instead of saying, it's too hard, say, it will make me stronger. These are not just words, they are decisions. They are declarations of responsibility. And every time you make that shift, you weaken your old self and strengthen your new self. Because your identity is shaped by what you consistently choose. If you consistently choose excuses, you become a person of excuses. But if you consistently choose responsibility, you become a person of power. So I challenge you today, stop explaining your life and start changing your life. Stop defending your limitations and start confronting them. Stop waiting for things to be perfect and start working with what you have. You don't need a perfect situation to take responsibility. You need a decision that says, From this moment forward, I am in charge of my life. I am responsible for my growth. I am responsible for my actions. I am responsible for my future. That decision will separate you from the majority because most people will continue to make excuses. They will continue to blame. They will continue to wait. But you will be different. You will be intentional. You will be disciplined. You will be responsible. And that is how you destroy your old self. Not by wishing, not by hoping, but by deciding. Deciding that excuses no longer have a place in your life. Deciding that responsibility is your new standard. Deciding that your future is worth more than your comfort. When you reach that point, everything begins to shift. Your mindset changes. Your habits change. Your results change. Because you have changed. And remember this, the moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment you take full control of your destiny. Discipline is not a punishment, it is a pathway. It is the bridge between who you are today and who you were created to become. And if you listen carefully, you will understand that your life right now is a direct reflection of your daily decisions. Not your big dreams, not your occasional efforts, but your repeated, consistent choices. Because destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of discipline. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is about restriction, about forcing yourself into a life of pressure and discomfort. But discipline is not about limiting your life. It is about liberating your future. It gives you the ability to do what is necessary even when it is inconvenient. And that is where transformation begins. You see, the old self lives by feelings. It wakes up and asks, how do I feel today? And whatever the answer is, determines the actions of the day. If it feels motivated, it works. If it feels tired, it rests. If it feels inspired, it starts. If it feels uncertain, it delays. And because feelings are unstable, the life of the undisciplined person becomes unstable. But the new self does not consult feelings. The new self consults purpose. It wakes up and asks, what must be done today to move closer to my destiny? And then it does it regardless of how it feels. That is discipline. It is the ability to override emotion with intention. Your feelings are real, but they are not reliable. They change with circumstances, with environment, with mood. But your decisions must be anchored in something deeper than feelings. They must be anchored in vision. Because if your life is controlled by how you feel, you will never be consistent. And inconsistency is the enemy of progress. Consistency is where power is built, not in one great moment, but in repeated small moments of discipline. Every time you choose to do what is right instead of what is easy, you strengthen your character. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you reinforce your commitment to your future. Success is not an event, it is a habit. It is the result of doing the right things over and over again until they become part of who you are. And that is why discipline is so important, because it transforms actions into habits and habits into identity. You don't become successful by chance, you become successful by design. And design requires discipline. It requires structure. It requires intention. You must begin to design your days if you want to design your life. Many people want extraordinary results, but they are committed to ordinary habits, and that is a contradiction. You cannot live casually and expect greatness. Greatness demands consistency. It demands that you pay the price daily, and the price is not always comfortable. There will be days when you don't feel like waking up early. There will be days when you don't feel like working, studying, training, or growing. But those are the days that matter the most. Because discipline is not tested when you feel good. It is tested when you don't. Anyone can be consistent when they are motivated, but motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. Discipline is what remains when motivation disappears. It is what keeps you moving forward when everything inside you wants to stop. The old self is addicted to comfort. It seeks the easiest path, the quickest reward, the least resistance. But comfort is dangerous because while it feels good in the moment, it costs you your future. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you are choosing your past over your potential. Discipline, on the other hand, is uncomfortable in the moment, but rewarding in the long run. It requires sacrifice. It requires focus. It requires saying no to things that do not align with your purpose. And that is where most people struggle. They want success, but they are not willing to let go of distractions. You cannot build a focused life with a distracted mind. Discipline demands that you eliminate what is unnecessary so you can concentrate on what is essential. It is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters most consistently. Your daily decisions are shaping your identity. Every action you take is casting a vote for the type of person you are becoming. If you consistently choose discipline, you become disciplined. If you consistently choose delay, you become a procrastinator. It is that simple. And the powerful thing about this is that change does not require a dramatic moment. It requires a different decision. Right now, in this moment, you can begin to shift your life by changing what you do next. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. You must stop waiting for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is only now. And what you do now determines what happens next. Discipline lives in the present. It is not something you plan for later. It is something you practice immediately. Many people sabotage their own growth because they rely on emotion to guide action. They say, I will start when I feel ready. But readiness is a myth. You don't become ready by waiting. You become ready by starting. Action creates clarity. Discipline creates readiness. The more you act, the more confident you become. The more consistent you are, the more natural discipline feels. What was once difficult becomes normal. What was once uncomfortable becomes routine. And that is how transformation happens. Gradually, consistently, intentionally. You must also understand that discipline is a decision you make repeatedly. It is not a one-time choice. It is a daily commitment. Every morning, you must decide again. Every moment, you must choose again. And over time, those choices compound. Your life is a result of what you have consistently done. If you want a different life, you must create different patterns. You must interrupt your old habits and replace them with new ones. And that requires awareness. You must become conscious of your actions. Pay attention to what you do every day, how you spend your time, what you prioritize, what you avoid, because those small decisions are not small. They are shaping your future. There is no neutral action. Everything you do is either moving you forward or holding you back. Discipline also requires accountability. You must hold yourself to a higher standard, not based on what others expect, but based on what you are capable of. Because you know when you are not giving your best. You feel it, and that awareness is a call to step up. Stop lowering your standards to match your habits. Raise your habits to match your standards. Become the person who does what they say they will do. Become reliable to yourself. Because self-trust is built through discipline. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your confidence. Every time you break your word to yourself, you weaken it. And without self-trust, growth becomes difficult. Because you no longer believe in your ability to change. But discipline restores that belief. It proves to you that you are capable. It reminds you that you are in control. There will be resistance. There will be moments when your mind tries to negotiate with you. It will say, just this once, you deserve a break. You can do it later. And if you are not careful, those small compromises will become habits. You must learn to recognize those moments and respond with strength. Because every time you give in, you reinforce the old self. And every time you resist, you build a new self. This is a battle, not against others, but against yourself, against your old patterns, your old tendencies, your old mindset. And discipline is your weapon. It is what allows you to win that battle daily. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You will make mistakes. You will have setbacks. But discipline means you don't stay down. You get back up. You continue. You adjust and keep moving forward. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. And progress comes from consistency. Small steps, repeated daily, create massive change over time. Do not underestimate the power of showing up every day. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, something is happening. You are building momentum. You are strengthening your character. You are becoming the person who can handle the success you desire. Because success is not just about achieving something. It is about becoming someone. And that someone is built through discipline, through daily decisions, through consistent action. So you must ask yourself, What kind of person am I becoming through my daily habits? Are my actions aligned with my goals? Am I moving forward or staying the same? Be honest with yourself, because honesty is the foundation of discipline. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. And once you see clearly, you must act immediately, decisively, without hesitation, because delay is the enemy of discipline. Do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. That is the standard. That is the mindset. That is the habit that will change your life. And when you live like that, something powerful happens. You begin to separate yourself from the majority. You begin to operate at a different level. You become focused, intentional, consistent, and over time, your results will reflect your discipline. Not instantly, but inevitably, because discipline always pays off. It may take time, but it is guaranteed. So, commit yourself to this principle. Make it non-negotiable. Decide that no matter what, you will discipline your daily decisions. You will not allow your feelings to control your actions. You will not allow comfort to steal your future, because your future is too important to be left to chance. It must be built one decision at a time. And remember this, every day is an opportunity to choose differently, to act intentionally, to move closer to your purpose. Take that opportunity seriously, because your life is being shaped right now, in this moment, by what you choose to do next. Listen carefully, because this is where everything begins and everything ends: your mind. If there is one place where your old self lives more than anywhere else, it is in your thinking. Not in your environment, not in your circumstances, not even in your habits at first, but in your mind. And until your mind changes, nothing else truly changes. You cannot live a new life with an old mindset. That is a violation of principle. You may change your location, you may change your relationships, you may even change your routines. But if your thinking remains the same, you will recreate the same life in a different form, because your mind is the blueprint of your reality. Everything you see around you was first created in the mind. Every action you take begins as a thought. Every decision you make is influenced by what you believe. So if your beliefs are limited, your life will be limited. If your thinking is small, your results will be small. It is not a mystery, it is a pattern. The tragedy is that most people are living with a mind that has been programmed by accident. They did not choose their beliefs consciously. They absorbed them from their environment, from their upbringing, from their experiences, from the opinions of others. And over time, those thoughts became their identity. You have been told what you can do, what you cannot do, what is possible, what is impossible. And without realizing it, you accepted those ideas as truth. But hear me clearly, not everything you believe is true. Some of your beliefs are simply repeated lies that you have agreed with over time. And those lies are limiting you. The old self is built on those limiting beliefs. It says, I am not good enough. It says, I don't have what it takes. It says, people like me don't succeed. And every time you think those thoughts, you reinforce that identity. You strengthen the very thing that is holding you back. But transformation begins when you challenge those thoughts. When you stop accepting everything your mind tells you as truth. Because your mind, if left unchecked, will default to fear, doubt, and comfort. It will try to protect you from risk, from failure, from discomfort. But in doing so, it will also prevent you from growth. You must take control of your mind. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, but daily. Because your mind is being influenced every single day, whether you are aware of it or not. What you watch, what you listen to, what you read, who you spend time with, all of these are feeding your thinking. And whatever you feed grows. If you feed your mind negativity, it will produce negative thoughts. If you feed it fear, it will produce hesitation. If you feed it doubt, it will produce inaction. But if you feed it truth, if you feed it purpose, if you feed it vision, it will begin to produce a different kind of thinking, a thinking that empowers you. Renewing your mind is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. Just like your body needs food every day, your mind needs the right input every day. You cannot feed your mind junk and expect it to produce clarity. You must become intentional about what enters your mind. Guard it, protect it. Because your mind is not just a place for thoughts, it is the control center of your life. The old self thinks automatically. It reacts without awareness. It repeats patterns without questioning them. But the new self thinks intentionally. It chooses its thoughts. It becomes aware of its patterns and actively works to change them. You must begin to observe your thinking. Pay attention to the thoughts that come to you throughout the day. Notice the patterns. Notice the negativity. Notice the fear. And instead of accepting those thoughts, challenge them. Ask yourself, is this true? Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or limiting me? Ask yourself, what is a better way to think about this? Because you have the power to replace your thoughts. You're not a prisoner of your mind, you are the manager of it. But management requires effort, it requires awareness, it requires discipline. Every time a negative thought enters your mind, you have a choice. You can accept it or you can reject it. And that choice determines your direction. If you consistently accept limiting thoughts, you will continue to live a limited life. But if you consistently reject them and replace them with empowering thoughts, your life will begin to expand. This is not about pretending that everything is perfect. It is about choosing to focus on what is possible instead of what is impossible. It is about training your mind to look for solutions instead of problems. The way you think about challenges determines how you respond to them. If you see a challenge as a threat, you will avoid it. But if you see it as an opportunity to grow, you will face it. And that shift begins in your mind. You must also understand that your mind believes what you repeatedly tell it. If you constantly say, I can't do this, your mind will accept that as truth. If you constantly say, this is too hard, your mind will look for reasons to stop. But if you begin to speak differently, if you begin to declare, I will find a way, I am capable, I am growing, your mind will start to align with those statements. Your words are powerful because they reinforce your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your reality. So you must become intentional, not only about what you think, but also about what you say. Renewing your mind also requires you to let go of old mental habits, patterns of thinking that have been with you for years, patterns of doubt, fear, insecurity, comparison, negativity. These patterns will not disappear overnight, but they can be replaced over time. Every day you must choose to think differently, even when it feels unnatural. Even when it feels unnatural, because your old way of thinking is familiar, and your mind will try to go back to what is familiar. But growth requires you to embrace what is unfamiliar. At first, new thoughts will feel strange. They will feel unnatural. But the more you repeat them, the more they become part of you. And eventually, they will replace the old patterns. You are literally rewiring your mind. And as your thinking changes, your perspective changes. And as your perspective changes, your decisions change. And as your decisions change, your life changes. This is why renewing your mind is so powerful, because it addresses the root, not just the surface. It changes who you are from the inside out. You must also be careful about the voices you allow into your life. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Some people will speak doubt into you. They will project their fears, their limitations, their insecurities onto you. And if you are not careful, you will begin to believe them. You must surround yourself with voices that elevate you, that challenge you, that remind you of what is possible. Because influence is powerful, and the people around you are shaping your thinking more than you realize. If you stay in an environment that constantly feeds negativity, it will be difficult to maintain a renewed mind. You may need to change what you listen to, what you watch, who you spend time with, not because you are better than others, but because you are serious about your growth. Growth requires separation from what is holding you back. You must also give your mind something to focus on, a vision, a purpose, because an idle mind will default to negativity, but a focused mind moves with intention. What are you aiming for? What are you building? What kind of person are you becoming? These questions matter because your mind needs direction. And when you give it direction, it begins to align your thoughts, your actions, your energy toward that direction. Renewing your mind is not just about removing negative thoughts. It is about replacing them with purposeful thoughts. Thoughts that move you forward. Thoughts that push you to grow. Thoughts that remind you of your potential. And this must be done daily. Not occasionally, not when you feel motivated, but consistently. Because the world will constantly try to shape your thinking. And if you are not intentional, you will be shaped by default. You must wake up and take control. Feed your mind with truth. Speak life into yourself. Focus on growth. Challenge your limitations. And do it again the next day and the next day. This is the process. It is not glamorous. It is not easy, but it is necessary. Because your life will never rise above the level of your thinking. If you want more, you must think more. If you want better, you must think better. If you want different, you must think different. And over time, something powerful begins to happen. Your confidence grows, your clarity increases, your fear decreases, your actions become more aligned with your purpose. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to believe in possibilities that once seemed impossible. You begin to operate from a place of strength instead of limitation. And that is when your new self begins to emerge. Not because your circumstances changed, but because you changed, because your mind changed. So I challenge you, take ownership of your thinking. Do not allow your mind to run on autopilot. Do not accept every thought that comes to you. Be intentional, be disciplined, be aware, because the battle for your future is not happening outside of you. It is happening within you, and the outcome of that battle will determine the direction of your life. Renew your mind daily, and as you do, you will begin to see a new life unfold before you, not by accident, but by design. As you come to the end of this message, I want you to understand something very clearly. This is not just inspiration. This is a decision point. Because information does not change your life. Decision does. You have heard the principles. You have seen the pattern. Now the question is not whether these habits work. The question is whether you will work them. Your old self is not destroyed by time. It is destroyed by choice. Every day you wake up, there are two versions of you fighting for control. The old you, comfortable, familiar, full of excuses, driven by feelings, limited by past thinking, and the new you, disciplined, responsible, focused, and driven by purpose. And whichever one you feed will win. If you feed excuses, you strengthen your past. If you feed discipline, you build your future. If you feed negative thinking, you stay stuck. If you renew your mind, you rise. This is not complicated, but it is not easy, because it requires you to confront yourself, to stop blaming, to stop delaying, to stop thinking the same way you have always thought. Transformation is not about adding something new. It is about removing what is no longer serving you, removing excuses, removing inconsistency, removing limiting beliefs, and replacing them with responsibility, discipline, and intentional thinking. You don't become a new person overnight, but you do become a new person through daily decisions, small choices, made consistently. Over time, that is how your life is rebuilt. Do not underestimate the power of one decision, one moment of responsibility, one act of discipline, one intentional thought, because those moments compound and eventually they create a completely different life. There is greatness inside of you. Not potential to be great someday, but greatness that is already there, waiting to be activated. But it will remain dormant as long as you are holding on to your old self. You must let go. Let go of the excuses that have been protecting your comfort. Let go of the habits that have been keeping you average. Let go of the thinking that has been keeping you small, because you cannot carry your past into your future and expect progress. And understand this, no one can do this for you. No one can take responsibility for your life. No one can discipline your decisions. No one can renew your mind for you. This is your assignment. This is your responsibility. This is your moment. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you feel ready. Act now. Decide now. Commit now. Because the longer you wait, the stronger your old self becomes. But the moment you decide, the moment you act, the moment you take responsibility, that is the moment your new life begins. And it will not be easy. There will be resistance. There will be days when you feel like going back. But remember this, growth is uncomfortable because it is taking you somewhere you have never been before. Do not run from that discomfort. Embrace it, because on the other side of discipline is freedom. On the other side of responsibility is power. On the other side of a renewed mind is a transformed life. So rise up, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Destroy the old version of yourself, not with emotion, but with decision, not with words, but with action, and step boldly into the person you were created to become. Your future is not waiting on luck, it is waiting on you.